Imagine this. You're standing on a small boat in the middle of the ocean. The water is perfectly calm. No wind, no waves, just an eerie silence. Then suddenly, something begins to move beneath the surface. At first, you think it's a whale, but then a long silver body slowly rises out of the deep. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, and it just keeps coming. A crimson-red crest flows behind its head like the crown of an ancient king. Its body shines like polished metal. Its eyes seem to stare directly at you. And in that moment, only one question crosses your mind. What is that thing? This is the oarfish, the longest bony fish on Earth. A creature so strange that even today scientists are still discovering new things about it. And here's the shocking part. Humans have seen this giant so rarely that every sighting becomes an event. But the story gets even stranger. For centuries, people have called it something else. The doomsday fish. In Japan, many believe that when an oarfish appears near the surface, an earthquake, a tsunami, or some other disaster is about to happen. Is it just an old myth? Or is there actually some science hidden behind the legend? And perhaps the biggest question of all, why would a fish that normally lives thousands of feet beneath the ocean suddenly appear where humans can see it? Is it sick? Is it dying? Or is something happening deep below the ocean that we still don't understand? Today, we're uncovering every mystery surrounding one of the most bizarre creatures ever discovered. And by the end of this video, you'll realize something incredible. Nothing about the oarfish is normal. If someone asked you, what is the longest fish in the world? Most people would immediately answer, the whale shark. But here's the twist. The whale shark is indeed a fish. However, its skeleton is made of cartilage. The oarfish is a true bony fish. And in that category, nothing else even comes close. An average oarfish grows between 20 and 30 feet long. Some reports even claim individuals exceeding 50 feet. Imagine a fish as long as a school bus, living in complete darkness, far below the surface. But its size isn't even the strangest thing about it. The first time you see an oarfish, you might not even recognize it as a fish. Its body is incredibly long, flat, and ribbon-like. Its entire body is covered in brilliant silver, reflecting light like a giant mirror. And rising from the top of its head is a bright red crest that looks almost like a royal crown. That's one reason ancient sailors often referred to it as the king of the sea. But things only get stranger. Unlike most fish, the oarfish has almost no scales. It has tiny, barely noticeable teeth. And despite its enormous size, it isn't a dangerous predator at all. It doesn't hunt sharks. It doesn't attack humans. Its favorite meals are surprisingly small. Tiny shrimp, krill, and microscopic drifting creatures known as plankton. Think about that for a second. A fish over 30 feet long, living on some of the smallest animals in the ocean. Nature truly has a way of creating things that seem impossible. But if the oarfish is completely harmless, why has it terrified people for centuries? The answer lies in history. Long before submarines, before underwater cameras, and before modern science, ancient fishermen occasionally encountered this bizarre creature. Imagine seeing a shining silver animal, 30 or 40 feet long, slowly rising from the depths. Without scientific knowledge, most people assumed they were looking at a sea monster. In fact, many historians believe that countless legends about giant sea serpents may have actually been inspired by oarfish sightings. From a distance, its long body appears snake-like. Its bright red crest waves through the water, and as it moves with the ocean currents, it looks less like a fish and more like a mythical sea dragon. Over time, a real animal became a legend, and eventually, that legend evolved into one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. Whenever an oarfish appears, disaster follows. But is there any truth behind that belief? Or is the human brain simply connecting events that were never actually related? The answer may completely change the way you think about this extraordinary creature. So now the question is, where does the oarfish actually live? And if it's one of the longest fish on Earth, why do so few people ever see one? The answer is simple. Because the oarfish lives in a world where humans are still visitors. Most of us only know the ocean's surface. Blue water, sunlight, coral reefs, and schools of colorful fish. But the deeper you go, the stranger everything becomes. At around 200 meters, sunlight begins to disappear. By 500 meters, darkness takes over. At 1,000 meters, you're entering a place where day and night no longer exists. Just endless darkness. An alien world beneath our own. This is where the oarfish spends almost its entire life. Usually between 650 and 3,000 feet below the surface, and sometimes even deeper. Down there, the pressure is so intense that it could easily crush a human body. Yet for the oarfish, it's simply home. And that's exactly why scientists still know surprisingly little about it. Think about it. We've mapped distant planets. We've sent robots to Mars. We've explored the moon. But watching a living oarfish in its natural habitat is still an incredibly rare event. For decades, the only oarfish people ever saw were the ones that had washed ashore. Dead, dying, or barely alive. No one had any idea how they behaved in the deep ocean. Then, deep-sea submarines and remotely operated cameras finally captured something extraordinary. For the first time, scientists watched a living oarfish swimming freely in the darkness. And what they saw didn't look like any fish they'd ever studied before. Most fish swim by moving their tails from side to side. The oarfish doesn't. Instead, its entire body remains almost perfectly still. Running along its back is a single, incredibly long red fin.
Rather than flapping its tail, the oarfish sends gentle waves through this fin. Those tiny waves slowly push it forward. No sudden movements, no bursts of speed. Just a smooth, almost hypnotic glide through the water. Watching it swim feels less like looking at a fish and more like watching a ribbon floating through the air. It's graceful, silent, almost ghost-like. Scientists believe this unusual swimming
style is actually an energy-saving adaptation. Food is incredibly scarce in the deep sea. Every movement costs energy. So instead of chasing prey, the oarfish moves as efficiently as possible. Nature designed it for survival, not speed. But perhaps the strangest behavior of all is the way it sometimes swims vertically. Imagine seeing a fish nearly 30 feet long, floating completely upright, its head pointing toward the surface, its body stretching straight down into the darkness. When researchers first witnessed this behavior, they thought something was wrong. Maybe the fish was injured or sick. But after observing more individuals, they realized this might actually be normal. Scientists believe the oarfish uses this position to search for food drifting down from above. Its large eyes constantly scan the water. The moment tiny shrimp, krill, or plankton drift within reach, the oarfish slowly moves closer, then quietly sucks them into its mouth. No attack, no chase, no violence, just patience. It's the ocean's version of an ambush hunter, without the aggression.
As unusual as its appearance is, its life remains even more mysterious. Scientists still don't know exactly how long an oarfish lives. Its complete life cycle is still uncertain. Researchers know very little about how it grows, how often it reproduces, or how many actually exist in the wild. Think about how incredible that is. In the 21st century, there's still a 30-foot-long animal on Earth whose life remains largely unknown. That tells us something important. The deep ocean is still one of the least explored places on our planet. Experts estimate that we've explored only a tiny fraction of the ocean in detail. Everything else remains hidden beneath miles of water. The oarfish isn't just a mysterious creature. It's a reminder of how much we still don't know about our own world.
But here's where things become even more interesting. If oarfish spend almost their entire lives in the deep ocean, why do they sometimes appear near the surface? That's the mystery that transformed this harmless fish into a global legend. Scientists have proposed several possible explanations. Some believe the fish may be sick. Others think they're injured. Powerful underwater currents may carry weakened individuals toward the surface. Old age could also play a role. When deep-sea animals become too weak to remain at depth, they may slowly drift upward. By the time they reach the shoreline, many are already dying. This explains why most oarfish found on beaches are in poor condition. But not every sighting fits that explanation. Some oarfish have been observed swimming near the surface while appearing perfectly healthy. And that's where the mystery truly begins.
For centuries, Japanese folklore has referred to the oarfish as the messenger from the sea god's palace. According to the legend, the fish rises from the deep before major earthquakes.
Some believe it can sense vibrations beneath the Earth's crust long before humans detect them. It's a fascinating idea, but does science agree? Or is it simply one of history's greatest coincidences? If earthquakes aren't bringing these creatures to the surface, then what is? In Part 3, we'll investigate the famous doomsday fish legend, examine the scientific evidence, and discover whether the oarfish is truly predicting disasters, or whether our minds are simply seeing patterns where none actually exist.
Now we come to the mystery, the one that transformed the oarfish from a strange deep-sea animal into one of the most famous legends in the ocean. People around the world know it by a different name, the doomsday fish. Imagine someone tells you there's a fish that appears before massive earthquakes. Most people would laugh. It sounds like something straight out of an old myth. But here's what's surprising. This belief became so widespread that even scientists decided to investigate it. The question was simple. Is there any real evidence behind the legend, or is it simply one of the greatest coincidences ever recorded? The story begins in Japan, a country that experiences more earthquakes than almost anywhere else on Earth. For centuries, Japanese fishermen passed down an old belief. Whenever deep-sea fish, especially the oarfish, appeared near the surface, a major earthquake would soon follow. Because of this, the oarfish earned a mysterious title,
Messenger from the Sea God's Palace. According to folklore, the fish rises from the deep to warn humanity before disaster strikes. For generations, this wasn't treated as entertainment. It was treated as a warning. Whenever fishermen spotted one, many believed something terrible was about to happen. Then came an event that made the legend famous across the entire world. The year was 2011. Months before one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history, several oarfish were reported along Japan's coastline. Some were alive. Others had washed ashore dead. At the time, very few people paid attention. Then, on March 11, 2011, Japan was struck by a magnitude 9.0 earthquake, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. Moments later, a massive tsunami slammed into the coastline. Entire towns were destroyed. Thousands of lives were lost. In the aftermath, people began connecting the dots. News articles, social media posts, and documentaries all repeated the same claim. The oarfish warned us. Almost overnight, its nickname spread around the world. The doomsday fish. But science doesn't accept stories as evidence. Science asks a different question.
Does the data actually support the claim? After the disaster, researchers examined decades of earthquake records. They compared them with documented oarfish sightings. If the legend were true, the pattern should be obvious. But that's not what they found. In many cases, oarfish appeared, and no earthquake followed. In other cases, major earthquakes occurred, without a single oarfish sighting beforehand. The pattern simply wasn't consistent. Japanese scientists eventually published studies analyzing the available data. Their conclusion was clear. There is currently no scientific evidence proving that oarfish can predict earthquakes.
For many people, that answer was disappointing, because legends are often more exciting than reality. But the mystery still wasn't completely solved. Some researchers proposed another possibility. Not that the oarfish predicts earthquakes, but that it might respond to changes occurring deep beneath the ocean. Before certain earthquakes, tiny shifts in pressure, chemical changes, or electrical disturbances may occur along the seafloor. Could deep-sea animals detect these subtle changes before humans? It's not an impossible idea. Nature has surprised us before. Birds often change their behavior before major storms. Elephants have been observed reacting to distant vibrations long before people notice them. Sharks can detect weak electrical fields in the water. So, could the oarfish possess a similar ability? Maybe. But here's the important word. Maybe. At this point, no scientific study has been able to prove it. And in science, a possibility is not the same as evidence. Without reliable proof, the theory remains just that. A theory. There's another reason this legend refuses to disappear. It's something psychologists call confirmation bias. It's a simple trick played by the human brain. We naturally remember events that support what we already believe, and we forget the ones that don't. Imagine this. An oarfish washes ashore. 2 weeks later, an earthquake happens. That story spreads everywhere. People remember it for years. But what about the dozens of times an oarfish appeared and absolutely nothing happened afterward? Those stories rarely make headlines. They disappear. Over time, only the dramatic examples survive. And little by little, a coincidence begins to feel like undeniable proof. That's how many myths are born. Not from lies, but from selective memory. Even today, one question still remains unanswered. If earthquakes aren't responsible, why do oarfish suddenly appear near the surface? Scientists have several possible explanations. Some individuals may be sick. Others may be injured. Strong ocean currents can carry weakened fish upward. Old age may also play a role. After spawning, some oarfish may become exhausted and drift toward shallower water. But here's the problem. No single explanation fits every case. Some oarfish found near the surface appear perfectly healthy. Others don't. And until scientists can observe more of these animals in their natural environment, the mystery remains unsolved. Perhaps that's what makes the oarfish so fascinating. It's not because it predicts disasters. It's because we still know so little about it. Think about it. A fish that can grow longer than a school bus, living thousands of feet beneath the ocean, rarely seen by humans. With a life cycle that remains largely unknown and surrounded by centuries of myths, it reminds us of something extraordinary. The deepest parts of our own planet remain more mysterious than many places in space. The oarfish isn't just a strange fish. It's proof that Earth's greatest secrets are still hidden beneath the waves. Ending. The next time you see a viral photo of an oarfish, don't just think about earthquakes.
Think about how little we truly know about the oceans. Because while the internet calls it the doomsday fish, scientists see something even more fascinating. A living mystery. A survivor from one of the least explored environments on Earth. And perhaps the greatest reminder that despite all our technology, the ocean is still keeping its biggest secrets hidden. Nothing about the oarfish is normal. And that's exactly what makes it one of the most incredible creatures on our planet.